Hi all, welcome to the second video looking at some of the development issues that face different nations around the world. Now the next two videos are going to look at some of the reasons why we have differences in development between different nations globally. We've already covered some of the different development indicators that we actually use to try and gauge these differences. But now it's time to maybe think a wee bit deeper about some of the reasons why some of these issues are actually there in the first place. Now, one of the things that's really useful to use is this diagram. Now, you've already seen this and you've taken a version of it for your notes, but it's a fairly straightforward, map of the world and fairly crudely splitting the world into two. Now, we use the Brandt line as our measure for this, and this is a measure to show roughly where most of the world's major developed nations and developing nations are found. Now, as I've said before, and I would just reiterate it now, this is a very, very crude measure. If we go through this country by country, you will find exceptions both north and south of this line. However, it is a useful measure to look at, really to make you ask the question, why is this the case? Why do we have a situation where, by and large, the kind of northern half of the world above this line is more developed than the southern half? And there's a multitude of different reasons why this is the case, and we're going to go into some of those today. Now, broadly speaking, we split the Y up into two different categories. There are physical factors and human factors. So, physical factors, really straightforward, natural things that either slow down or enhance a nation's ability to develop, or human ones, where something that's man-made, that's driven by humans, is responsible for the same thing, for either enhancing or slowing a nation's development. Now, throughout this whole topic, I've been saying this a lot, but I'm going to keep saying it. This is complicated. If we are doing this in a broad overview fashion, we are not going into the nitty-gritty of individual countries. It is complex. Every country has a multitude of reasons that go some of the way to explaining their current level of development. And it's a combination of physical factors, of human factors, but we just look at these discreetly because it's a little bit easier to understand for the kind of position that we're at the moment. Now, for the physical factors. Now, you have seen the table I'm about to show you before. It does appear in the text, but if we go through this, there's a lot of information on the screen right now, so just work with me line at a time. So, first, climate. You can't, despite what some people are possibly trying to do, you can't really change the climate. We need to operate within the boundaries that it sets for us. And human beings as a species, as much as we can cope across the world, thanks to technology, naturally speaking, we don't like it to be too hot, too cold, too dry, too wet. Now, the two that are the biggest players is if it's too dry or too cold. Now, simply put, if it's too dry, you don't have any rain. Seems very obvious. If you don't have any rain, you can't grow as many crops, and that's going to put you in a position where famine is very common, which is obviously a bad thing. If you don't have any rain, your soil is also going to dry out. That's going to make it more prone to erosion, particularly by the wind. You would wind up in a position where the soil literally turns to dust and blows away. Puts you back in the position you were in a moment ago. You can't grow crops. You're going to wind up with famine. Now, this is an issue that sub-Saharan Africa has faced in a really big way over its history. Ethiopia in particular, if you think of the Band-Aid Christmas song, that's where that started, was as a response to famine in Ethiopia, which was due to drought caused by the climate being too dry. Now, if we look at the other option we have here with climate, if it's far, far too cold, you really struggle to build. Building materials don't cope well in the cold. Or if you want building materials that will cope well in the cold, they need to be very, very expensive and they need to be specially manufactured. You also, with a lack of warmth, back to the point we had earlier, you see a lack of crops, or your ability to grow crops is diminished. That's the bell. And both of these things result in a very expensive way of life. And there's a lot of different places around the world that have this. You know, northern Canada is a big example, northern Russia, etc. as well. Now, the next one we move on to, relief, physical shape of the land. If it's mountainous, dead straightforward, it's hard to build or farm on mountains. That's not something that's easy to do. You look at, Nepal, when you look at the Alps, you don't see huge cities built on mountaintops because it's difficult and expensive. Now, moving on to resources, or a lack thereof, if you don't have resources, you can't sell them. If you can't sell them, you can't make money. That slows down your development. If you don't have fuels, oil, coal, natural gas, etc., it's a discouragement for industry to establish itself in your nation. Equally, no industry, no money. In Malawi is the kind of example we use with this, where they don't have a large amount of natural resources that they can exploit to drive their development. Next, the environment. Now, one that seems really silly if it's unattractive, but it is a big thing. If you don't have, obvious tourist draws, and by that, we mean nice beaches, beautiful mountains, all this kind of stuff to draw people into your country. If you don't have that, it's an opportunity to make money that you're missing. Do you know what I mean? Our example here is Burkina Faso, a landlocked sub-Saharan African nation. Or they don't have lots of that, and they don't have this obvious draw to bring tourists in. Now, disease. If your nation happens to be in an area where you've got issues with particular endemic diseases, that's going to mean people can't work because they're sick. If people are sick and not working, they're not making money for your country, so development slows down. Now, the last one we have here is natural disasters. And the whole point with the natural disasters is not that they occur, it's that there's a relative frequency to them occurring that's going to mean your development is going to slow down. And the reason you're going to have that is if you have natural disasters occurring frequently, they happen again and again and again, that means that people are never going to be able to really focus on farming, building schools, building hospitals, building all of these things that will drive development, because every couple of years, or every year possibly, if we're talking about living in an area that's really prone to particularly powerful hurricanes, things are going to get damaged and they're going to get knocked down. So you're going to need to pay to rebuild them. So the money you could have been spending to drive development, you're actually spending to rebuild your infrastructure every couple of years. I mentioned the Caribbean during the lesson gets this, obviously with hurricanes every year, but also Bangladesh gets hurricanes every single year, and it really, really does them a huge amount of damage, and they struggle to recover from it on a yearly basis, which slows down their potential development. Now, that's going to wrap up today's video, guys. Now, this has looked at the physical factors that can slow down development, and obviously a lot of these you can flip on their heads and they become reasons why development would be promoted, but we'll focus on why they would slow development. The next video we're going to look at some of the human factors and how they can slow down or enhance development as well, and I'll see you guys then.